Okay, we're going to get started. Thank you. Good morning, fellow commissioners, Chief McDonald, Executive Director Django Sibley, Inspector General Matthew Barragan, Senior Assistant City Attorney Carlos de la Guerra, Madam Secretary, and members of the public. Today is Tuesday, November 25th, 2025. It is 9:30 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Please let the record reflect Commissioners Shields, Garcia, and Scobin are present. Madam Chair.
Thank you. We welcome everyone attending this morning, both in person and online. We want to ensure all members of the public can access our meetings, so if you need any translation services or accommodations, we encourage you to contact the board secretary in advance of our meetings, as explained in our written agenda. These meetings are regular meetings between the board and the department. We welcome feedback from the public during the public comment period, which will be heard during item number 2 on the agenda. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board. You can speak to any item on the agenda or any matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. Each member of the public can have a total of up to 3 minutes to speak if you wish to speak on both agenda items and general public comment as explained in the written agenda. While we welcome public attendance at our meetings, disruptive behavior will not be tolerated and will be cause for removal. You will receive just one warning, and if you continue disrupting the meeting, you will be asked to leave and be removed from the meeting. We will now move to item number 1 of the agenda, the report of the Chief of Police, Chief McDonald.
Morning, Commissioner, Inspector General Barragan, City Attorney De La Guerra, and Executive Director Sibley. Today I'll be covering the key events from the past week, share our latest crime trends, and provide an update on our staffing levels. Before I begin, I want to offer my condolences to the Alhambra Police Department and to the friends and family of Officer Alec Sanders, who was killed in the line of duty on November 20th. Officer Sanders had stepped up to work an extra shift to help his department. He lost his life doing what every officer does without hesitation, showing up, serving his community, and answering calls that come with real and unpredictable danger. Most people don't see it, but policing is one of the few professions where the risk isn't theoretical. It's built into the job. Officers encounter situations every day where the outcome is unknown, and they do it because they've made a commitment to protect others. As we move into the holiday season, when many families are gathering, I'd ask that we all take a moment to think about those who are facing this terrible loss. Officer Sanders' family, his friends, and the Alhambra Police Department family will be carrying this pain with them. Please keep them in your prayers. On November 20th at about 13:30, 77th Patrol Division uniformed officers responded to a radio call of an ADW suspect there now at 2112 West 76th Street. An LAPD manned air unit from Air Support Division responded to the call and began orbiting over the location. The aircrew officers observed the suspect, later identified as Anthony Witsey, standing in front of the yard of his residence. The tactical flight officer monitored Witsey and observed that as he fired approximately 3 to 5 rounds from a pistol at the orbiting black and white helicopter. The tactical flight officer broadcast an officer needs help call on 77th base frequency. 77th Patrol Division uniformed officers arrived at scene and were directed by the air unit to Witsey's location. The officers observed Witsey to be holding a gun while standing in a front yard. The officers gave Witsey multiple commands to drop the handgun, but he failed to comply with directions, and an officer-involved shooting occurred. Witsey dropped the pistol, remained in his front yard, but refused to comply with officers' commands to surrender. As additional patrol units arrived at the scene, officers fired multiple rounds from 40mm less lethal launcher, striking Witsey. Witsey retreated into his residence and refused to surrender. Metropolitan Division's K-9 and Special Weapon and Tactics personnel responded to the scene for a barricaded suspect. Witsey exited the residence and was taken into custody after a K-9 contact. Witsey was not struck by gunfire. Witsey was transported by rescue ambulance to Harbor UCLA Medical Center, where he was treated for his injuries and cleared for booking. The firearm possessed by Witsey was determined to be a Smith & Wesson M&P 9mm pistol, which was recovered and booked as evidence. No officers or other community members were injured as a result of this incident. Force Investigation Division personnel responded and assumed investigative responsibility for the incident. I'm aware that there have been concerns raised over the past several meetings regarding the increase in officer-involved shootings, and I want to assure you that we're reviewing each incident with careful scrutiny and full transparency. Last year at this time in 2024, the department had 25 officer-involved shootings. This year, we've had 39. A major driver of this rise is a significant increase in suspects armed with firearms or highly realistic replica weapons. In 2024, officers encountered 11 suspects armed with a firearm and 4 armed with replica, pellet, or airsoft type weapons. This year, those numbers have grown to 17 suspects with firearms, a 55% increase, and 10 suspects armed with replica type weapons, which is a 150% increase. These imitation weapons are often indistinguishable from real firearms during rapidly unfolding high-risk encounters. We're also seeing more suspects firing at our officers. Last year, through this same date, officers were fired upon 7 times. This year, that number has increased to 10, a 43% rise. This data shows that the increase in officer-involved shootings is directly tied to the rise in armed suspects and the elevated level of assaults on our officers. These are increasingly dangerous encounters where officers are confronting individuals who are either armed with real firearms or presenting weapons that appear to be real in the moment. While the overall number of OIS incidents has increased, we remain committed to thoroughly examining every incident, maintaining full transparency with the public, and ensuring that our tactics, our training, and our oversight continue to reflect best practices and the expectations of this commission and the communities that we serve. In response to recent concerns about violent crime within our transit system, the Transit Services Division is implementing an enhanced deployment model, one that builds directly on the successful strategy we used in 2024, which produced measurable reductions in Part 1 crime. This updated plan strengthens staffing across our key watches, both day and night. It increases officer visibility on trains, buses, and platforms. It reinforces our response to mental health-related calls through the continued partnership of MEU SMART units, and it accelerates arrest processing with additional detention officers so we can keep our frontline patrol officers where they belong, out in the system protecting riders. We're applying focus patrols along the B line and E line, increasing our presence at high-volume stations and assigning a dedicated transportation and booking component to maintain consistent field strength. This operational model is designed to deter criminal activity, improve response times, and enhance the overall safety and security of everyone who uses our transit system. We know how vital this system is for workers, students, families, and visitors across Los Angeles, and we are committed to ensuring that they can travel safely. We had a threat against a church on November 22nd. Mission Division responded to criminal threats incident involving an individual engaged in an ongoing dispute with Grace Church in Sun Valley. The suspect believed the church coerced his mother into changing her will following her recent passing, removing him as a beneficiary and leaving her belongings to the church. Church security reported that he had been harassing staff and members for approximately 2 weeks. Throughout the day, the suspect posted a series of alarming messages on social media, including statements such as, "Are you ready for a bit of ultra-violence?" and "Are you guys ready for the big persecution hoedown tomorrow morning at Grace Church?" He also posted videos of himself driving around the church, describing the footage as surveillance, while accusing the church of stealing his mother's money to fund new construction. Using investigative techniques, detectives identified the suspect's residence and coordinated with our law enforcement partners. He was taken into custody without incident. Major Crimes Division, Criminal Investigation Section responded, assumed the case, and the suspect was booked for criminal threats. On November 22nd, about 2100 hours, officers from Newton Patrol Division observed a male abruptly exit a white Ford F-250 near 58th Street and Ascot Avenue. At the same moment, their license plate reader system alerted them that the vehicle was reported stolen. Officers detained the individual immediately and without incident. The vehicle had been hotwired and the officers were initially unable to shut it off. As the officers were conducting their investigation, a second individual, later identified as the detained suspect's brother, arrived at the scene on a bicycle. After briefly speaking with the officers about his brother's detention, he discarded the bicycle, entered the stolen truck, and refused commands to exit. He then drove off as officers were securing the original suspect in their vehicle. Officers broadcast the direction of travel and a help call was generated. Moments later, the suspect returned to the original location and the stolen truck refused all commands and fled again. Responding units located him and a vehicle pursuit was initiated. Throughout the pursuit, the suspect intentionally rammed multiple police vehicles, both head-on and reversing into them. His driving pattern remained erratic and aggressive, and he continued making deliberate attempts to ram pursuing officers. Although spike strips and the pursuit intervention technique were approved, spike strips were deemed unsafe due to the suspect's actions. Given the dangerous nature of the incident and the suspect's escalating behavior, the watch commander determined that the situation exceeded the capabilities of patrol units and requested specialized pursuit intervention support from Metropolitan Division with approval from Counterterrorism and Special Operations Bureau. After several pit attempts, the suspect's vehicle lost a tire. A final pit maneuver disabled the truck at 15th and Alameda, where officers were able to take the suspect into custody. The pursuit lasted about 45 minutes and was widely televised. During the incident, several officers sustained moderate to minor injuries. The LA City Fire Department declared mass casualty incident and began triaging personnel at scene. In total, seven officers were injured. Their injuries ranged from fractures and dislocations to complaints of pain. No members of the public were injured, and all officers are expected to make a full recovery. For the most recent 4-week period from October 26th through November 22nd, overall Part 1 crime is down 8.1% compared to the prior 4 weeks. Persons crimes are up 1.4%, while property crimes are down 10.7%. Homicides year-to-date are down 23.1%, representing 61 fewer lives lost compared to this time last year. Year-to-date victims shot citywide are down 7.7%, which equates to 70 fewer shooting victims. Aggravated assaults citywide increased 1.2% for the most recent period, and there are no patterns or trends related to this increase. Robberies were flat for the 4-week period, showing no overall change citywide. Strong-arm robberies continue to make up more than half of the robberies. Robberies involving firearms are slightly down. Citywide burglaries declined 2.9% over the last 4 weeks. Residential burglaries dropped 14.6%. Non-residential burglaries, however, increased 14%. Motor vehicle thefts are down 2.7% citywide for the most recent period. On our personnel strength, our sworn personnel as of November 24th is 8,667. Civilian professional staff, 2,520, and we currently have 344 reserve officers. This concludes my report today, and wishing everyone here and everyone in our community a very happy Thanksgiving, and hopefully everybody gets to spend some time with friends and those that are important to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I'll start off with questions from my commissioner. Excuse me, ma'am, that is your first warning. You will have an opportunity to speak later during public comment. And you, sir, too. Thank you. We'll start off with questions from fellow Commissioner Garcia.
Good morning. Thank you, Chief. Just a note, condolences to the Alhambra police officer's family, wishing them well, and to anybody listening, wishing them happy Thanksgiving and hopefully a peaceful weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Commissioner Scobin.
Thank you. Troubling to hear about the increase in officer-involved shootings this year, also the increase in suspects firing at officers. I'm happy to hear you mention an increase in training and review of policy to make sure that we're best prepared to handle those situations. I'm curious, as it pertains to the increase in shooting, what other neighboring agencies are reporting, and if you know if they're experiencing the same increases.
Yeah, I don't have that data, but we'll put that together and see what LASD next door, Long Beach, and some of the other, more active departments are experiencing.
Great, thank you. And then the other thing, just last week we had talked about the proposal or ordinance that'll be considered by the city council on less lethal. And I just want to make sure that we circle back to that and get an understanding of how what they're considering might differ from what our current policies are. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, I am not sure where they're gonna end up going with that, at the city council level, or what their ability is to be able to determine that. But from my perspective, having looked at our, situation in managing crowds, controlling crowds over many years, to look at taking away, opportunities for de-escalation, taking away less lethal force options, does not sound like sound public policy from where I sit. We need all the tools that are available. These tools have evolved over many years to be able to put us in a position where we use the least force that's effective in trying to be able to restore order in the case of a crowd control situation. So I would hope that that's reevaluated, and that those that are looking to make these decisions come out and see what we do. We've offered that to anybody who is in that position to make these type of decisions, and get to see what options are available and what the officers are facing out there in the field. Because to take away less lethal force options, unfortunately, puts our officers at tremendous risk, as well as the public that are out there in that environment.
Yeah, I mean, while I support obviously having the tools needed to handle, obviously ensuring that we as a department are following policy, I think is also
Sure.
equally as critical. So looking forward to that.
Thank you. Thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chief. And I'll start with, also echoing my sincere condolences to the Alhambra police officers, family, and friends who passed away in the line of duty. And again, this highlights the concerns we have with police pursuits, both as, in terms of the danger to the community and to the officers themselves. And so I want to make sure that we continue to look at ways of making them as, balancing the need to stop versus the safety to everyone. And so I want to make sure that that's continuously on our radar, because I don't think anyone wants the result that happened to Alhambra. And so I think both the department, the commission, and the Inspector General's office should continue to look at these things, look at whether there's any additional technology, tactics. And also, I don't know whether the department ever has an opportunity to kind of inform legislature when they're coming up with penalties for, what it means when someone tries to, not stop for police. Is there any kind of attempt to try to increase those types of penalties?
There are many attempts to inform the legislative process relative to what happens on the street. Unfortunately, we are not often enough reached out for our perspective on many of these public policy decisions. I would welcome that at any opportunity.
I think this may be a good, thing for like the major city chiefs or other kind of major city chiefs or others to really try to put a focus on this so that people's safety is front and center, both members of the community who are often, unfortunate bystanders to this, or the officers themselves, and also hope that the officers involved with the LAPD who are injured have a speedy recovery as well.
Thank you, Commissioner.
With regards to the use of force, and thank you for kind of acknowledging the issues here. Again, these are an issue of concern, and I too have kind of noticed an increase in the number of people shooting officers, and also at helicopters, and the danger that can pose to the community. And this too, I think we had a recent case that we adjudicated, and the individuals who shot at officers received a very minor kind of penalty. Have we ever put that together in some type of report so that we are notifying legislators and helping to inform, like, look, this is only going to increase if people who are choosing to shoot at officers aren't held accountable?
Thanks. Yeah, we can put together a report to be able to show maybe over the last year, the dispo of cases where officers were assaulted or in particular shot at, and where those cases are today. Yeah, as you mentioned, in many cases, the penalty does not seem to match the offense.
Yeah. And I think that indicating, if we want to see less uses of force, officers are going to be in a position of having to defend themselves. So if they are being shot at, I don't know how we can tell them, no, you can't shoot back. And
can't.
so that's, I think, one step. Now, we also have to make sure, again, we're looking at, is every single shooting actually necessary and all of that? But at the minimum point when they are being shot at, it's hard to tell them to do anything else. Also, with regards to the increase in the use of imitation firearms, I think also just indicating or providing some resources to legislators about, the dangers of possessing and selling these types of imitation firearms and how that puts officers and potentially people in the public in danger when they don't know that they are replica, but obviously the officers have to react as though they are real. So I think those are all things that I think as a goal, if there's ways that we can inform people higher up who make the laws about what you're seeing on the ground, it would be helpful and informative.
Our hope is that the political appetite that we've seen in the last 5 years in particular is starting to change for the better of public safety. I'm hopeful in that regard.
Thank you. And with regards to personnel strength, I know that the reserve officers help support the Paris Olympics. Is there any attempt at kind of building up those numbers? We heard about the recruiting efforts for the sworn personnel, but have we also looked at potentially bulking up reserve officers as well?
Yeah, we are looking at that. We're trying to be able to shore up our full-time numbers, as much as we can initially. Currently down 1,400 officers. I have a budget to be able to hire 240 for the next year. We're going to lose 500 to 600. We're going in the wrong direction aggressively 2 years before the Olympics. That's not a good place to be.
Yeah. And I've met some very impressive reserve officers. So if there's any ways that we can also kind of simultaneously be recruiting them at the same time, that may help the department. And as this is the week of Thanksgiving, and many of us will be, taking time to spend time with our families. I want to just take a moment to thank all the officers, 911 dispatchers, first responders, and all those who will be working instead of being with their family. And so want to acknowledge that and grateful for them. Okay, so now we will move on to item number 2 on the agenda, public comment. Madam Secretary, please call on the first speaker.
The first speaker is Serge Delmar.
Is on the signing sheet. This testimony is for the official record. I don't make statements, I write depositions. Every word I speak here becomes part of your permanent archive, indexed under my name, retrievable under California Public Records Act, admissible in any future proceeding where institutional knowledge must be proven. Commissioner, you just stated that law enforcement is one of the few professions where risk isn't theoretical. I concur with that statement. Growing up in Scientology is one of the childhoods where the risk isn't theoretical whatsoever. You understand operational risk. You understand institutional liability. You understand what happens when protocols fail and someone gets hurt. So do I. I learned it as a child in an organization that claimed to protect while systemically documenting self-incriminating admissions under conditions where consent was impossible. 12 years old. That's how young I was when I was being drilled with teddy bears and dolls. Because you drill it in Scientology before you do it on an adult. Before you ask an adult, have you committed any crimes that you wouldn't want the FBI to know about? You drill that on a doll. They have a film where Danny Masterson, convicted rapist Danny Masterson, was the subject of that grooming film. Use of a doll in auditing with a doll at 12 years old. Ask the doll if they've ever masturbated thinking about you. That's what's going on in the Scientology hotels and commercial buildings. That everyone keeps playing dumb. We don't know. We heard it's a religion. A convicted felon, L. Ron Hubbard, convicted felon. How, in what world is a convicted felon an American-bred god? I would love to know who can answer that with a straight face to the kids that were being paid nothing, but Scientology was making $500 an hour while we were sitting in those rooms auditing people, asking them, how did you think about when you were masturbating to me? Did you put any hand cream when you were jerking off your dick? Those were explicitly required. If you didn't get that part, you were told you missed the withhold and you would be punished. That's where we keep coming here, begging for intervention.
Next, we have Mirjam. Mirjam, you're on. Okay, we'll move on to the next.
We have Michael Habicht.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chief, and Inspector General. My name is Michael Habik, and back in the early or late 60s, I was actually at the LA Police Academy watching my dad graduate to become a police officer. So I'm part of this family. Back in April of 24, I was invited to an investigation that your department was controlling and invited us into a private viewing to discuss the corruption between LAPD and Scientology. Later did I think that a few months later I would be personally attacked by one of your officers. And right now I'm having the most difficult time. You know, Chief, you just said, God, I really would invite people to listen to me. Well, that's how I feel right now. I've reached out to you. I've reached out to your office. I've had nobody contact me. Everybody keeps rubber stamping me, saying, oh, unfounded. Oh, not true. I have a sweatshirt right here. On June 1st, I was wearing this. Do you know how hard it is to rip this? Your officer ripped this off of me during the attack that was unfounded. Matthew, I'm asking you personally today to set me up with one of your officers to reach out to me. You have a pink envelope that I've given them with my number in it. Have them contact me today or tomorrow so I can talk about this. Because just like you, Chief, you want to be heard. I want to be heard, and I'm not being heard. It's because of all this BS that I'm having to go through. I filed documents and documents. I have a folder that's probably 6 inches deep with all the forms and documents that I have filled out properly for you guys to do your investigation. Have you guys done anything? Have I heard from you guys? No. I carry the same credit card in my wallet that you probably do from the LAPD Federal Credit Union. Yet I can't even get anybody to reach out to me. I'm not asking for special attention. I'm just asking for someone to contact me and discuss this. If my attack was unfounded, what video were they watching? Have they ever requested the video that I have that shows that when I asked told the officer when I was walking next to him with my camera right here, hey, remember, we're just here to get the kids out. He paused, he thought for a few seconds, and what did he do? This was the end result of it. I ended up in the hospital that night. And to this day, I am still suffering pain from that injury that I received that night from that officer that was called unfounded. I yield my time.
Thank you. Can we make sure someone follows up with him, please? Thank you. Next speaker.
Next on Zoom, we have Star.
Good morning.
Good morning. What items would you like to speak on?
All 3 items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Thank you so much for the time. Ms. Rasha, it's nice to hear you sending condolences to police officers as well as you, Chief McDonald. You're the only two that are ever consistent in sending condolences. Our hearts are truly, truly broken for this young 25-year-old officer and an officer a week before him. Thank you always for your support. I'm just a community member that appreciates our police. And regardless what you hear week after week, we do respect our police officers. Absolutely respect them, hold them in high regard. And Chief, you are not incorrect when you say more assaults on police officers and firing on police officers is higher. This is true when it's evident. It's because there is no accountability with these people that are doing this to our officers. And every officer has a right and obligation to go home safe to their families at night. We're tired of living in terror. We are, Chief, and thank you to every officer that's out there that's helping our community. We community members support license plate readers, face recognition. We support drones if needed. Like I said, we're tired of living in a city of terror, and something needs to be done. And thank you for your support for the officers. um, we, a lot is not reported, and I'm sure you know this, Chief. We've had cars broken into our neighborhood, and people are just not reporting it anymore. Not anything that the police are doing wrong, but there's no accountability, like I said. And the assaults, you see that, the assaults and the fake guns now that are out in the streets intimidating these police officers is just gross and sickening. We don't even go out after dark anymore. I mean, since when does that happen? It's just the last 3 or 4 years have been horrendous. So thank you to all our officers. We that live in the community appreciate you. You're going to hear a small minority that are there every week, but we are the majority, and we appreciate it. So to everybody, a happy Thanksgiving. Oh, and by the way, Chief, about the press passes. That we heard a couple weeks. The press have to follow the rules also, and anyone can make a press pass from the internet, and it's happening. They're printing these fake press passes and holding up their cell phones and saying, "Oh, we're press." In the meantime, these are not protests; these are riots that are going on. After the Dodger game, give me a break. People are not having a good time when they're jumping on fire trucks that has lights and sirens. That's trying to go to somebody's emergency, and these buffoons are on the top of the truck and on the ladders and blocking this police truck. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you, LAPD.
Andrew Gravener, please.
Condolences to Rasha for having to run the meeting today. And I'm not sure if they didn't make you president because you just couldn't get the votes or because you got tired of it. I guess you got to run the meeting today since they haven't elected a vice president yet. So the Chiefs report should be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes at every meeting. If the Chiefs report exceeds 3 minutes, which will match the amount of time the Chief takes, regardless of how long the Chief takes to give his report, everyone should be able to speak both in person and on the phone. So, almost no concern from any of you about the fact that compared to this time last year, according to what he said, the LAPD has shot 14 more people at this time than they have than they did at this time last year. 14. And basically no concern from you. You all have so much condolences whenever a cop is killed, but you don't share those condolences when the LAPD shoots and kills community members almost every week. They've shot 39 people. That's close to an average of 1 a week at this point in the year. I mean, and you don't do anything. More was fired partly because the LAPD was shooting and killing so many people. They're shooting 14 more people than they did this time last year. This is about when McDonald got started, right around this time last year. When is he getting fired? You have the power to fire him. That is in the city charter. You can fire him yourself, but you refuse to, even though he's lying to the public, lying to you, lying to the press, lying to everyone about LAPD assisting ICE. LAPD is assisting ICE, but this fool goes and lies openly to the press, to the public, to the country, to you even. You say do nothing, absolutely nothing. You can just do whatever he wants, I guess. LAPD will shoot 14 more people than they did this time last year. You have absolutely nothing to say whatsoever. Absolutely nothing. So, We have a number of grants. You're getting some grants from the Trump administration. I wonder what kind of strings are attached to that, what you're letting them do with all these grants from the Trump administration. You also have a training with the Trump administration on drones. No on that. You got McDonald's going out or something like that. McDonald's going to meet with the Trump administration. No. We have multiple holiday parties. No. You have more horses so that you can abuse more horses, force them to go out and trample protesters, trample the public. And you won't even go and pick up their poop when they poop on the street. They just leave the horse shit all over the street. So fire McDonald. Let's hear from all speakers today. Not even that many people.
William Good.
Good morning. So once again, I listened to his report, and it sounds like the number of officers in LAPD are down since last year. They've been down since the year before that. They keep on dropping down. You guys have these grand plans to try to boost recruitment. Let me tell you something. It's not going to happen. Your recruitment is not going to get an uptick. You're going to continue losing officers. You want to know why? Because people do not respect the LAPD. Internally, people don't respect the LAPD. Again, when 52% of the population are women, but only 19% of the LAPD are women, it tells you you have a problem with women. And how do you address that? How does this guy address that? Remember Al Labrada, that deviant, that guy who's put air tags on a woman's car and stalked her? Right now, this asshole has 3 investigations into her. They're going after the victim, Jim. You're going after the victim. And then they're basing it upon that she lied about him in a Board of Rights hearing. You fucking scumbag. This is how women are treated in the LAPD. Under you, Jim. What happened to your last PIO? You just fired her. You made up some bullshit story that the Trump administration's mad at her, so you had to fire her. Another woman. And who did you put in place? Robert Port, your buddy. Your good buddy to take her job. Got her parking spot too, huh? Oh, no, and on top of it, somehow we got to pay for his car on top of it. This is how women are treated. And here's another thing. The lady who actually found the AirTag that Al Labrada placed on his victim's car, you filed a complaint against her too! Jim, you are a fucking scumbag. And you know what? Quite honestly, this sort of mismanagement under Jim McDonald it's empirical. If you were to look at the data of, I got my hands on the data of all the cops that have been suspended over the last 10 years. I have all their total number of suspension dates and stuff. And I was just going through and looking at total numbers. 2019, LAPD suspended 154 people. 2020, 148 cops were suspended. 2021, 155. 2022, 148. 2023, 140. So you see it's about 150 per year. Under him, they've cut it to 77 last year. He has just abdicated all his duties. And quite honestly, LAPD Commission, you guys call yourself the head of the LAPD. What are you guys going to do about it? Because enough's enough. This guy is a piece of shit. You're going to let him run over women like that? Women are watching. Enjoy your day. Fuck you, Jim.
Next, we have Bruce W. Bruce,
All items, please.
okay, 3 minutes.
You know, ever since I brought up Hurtado, other women who have been affected by him have been coming out of the woodwork. Now, we already are aware of stay-away orders against German Hurtado, but now I'm getting calls about 2 other women. One who's a part of a highly specialized unit who may have a restraining order against Hurtado. Somebody should look into it. And another officer, let's call her Martha G., who had an inappropriate relationship with him as well. Jim, you must be surrounding yourself with people that cover for Hurtado, because I just cannot believe that you knew about him before you promoted him. Chief, you are promoting misogynistic people. Chief 30 by 30 is almost at 15%, and I thought this department protected women. And you want to know what's really ironic? Air Brada is the one trying to protect Hurtado, the same former assistant chief who was fired following the AirTag incident, victimizing a female officer, targeting her friends who spoke up as well. We all know what they say about birds of a feather. You can't even make this stuff up. But moving on, commissioners, if you knew what was being done or accepted without your approval, you would be disgusted. Last year, OVB held an elaborate Christmas party costing tens of thousands of dollars and not approved by this commission. Even Dom had the good whereabouts not to attend. But you attended, Jim. What kind of message is that sending about accountability? I call that disregarding the authority and undermining this commission. However, even some of the donations that were approved, I do question, like private parties at the Jonathan Club or backyard barbecues, or a $20,000 wellness day for the CSP Bureau, a political cash cow. They only have 100 officers in the Bureau, less than a station, but at least these donations went through the proper channels. And I worry about the unvetted, unapproved donations that come from these unknown foundations, the ones that are not approved. No one seems to know them, yet they're given badges to enter any station and given free reign. You know, as a volunteer, I had to work for my access. I didn't know I just had to give millions of dollars to get it. I yield the rest of my time. God bless the LAPD.
Audit LA.
Good morning. I also want to remember that Burbank lost a canine officer, Spike, also. And being the animal lover that I am, that it breaks my heart. I want to say I became a very strong advocate against the abuses of Scientology and really got to learn how they are over involved and over influencing this city because of, I guess, Serge is gone and Laura FM. When I got to understand their stories and how horrific their childhood was at the hands of Scientology, and then to learn further that it's not just them, that it's and countless amount of people, everyone that comes forward that grew up in Scientology. I have yet to hear one person say it was not absolutely abusive. And so I protest peacefully. You know, my protest is really coming to the city and begging you to stop interacting. Stop letting them have the influence. Now, Saturday, they were given another permit, okay, for a special event. And the past two events, the LAPD did come because they blocked the sidewalks, which it's illegal to do. And LAPD said you have to open up the sidewalk. And they did until the police officers leave. But this Saturday was different. This time, they actually built a stage behind their barricade. So even if the officer did come and say, open it, that you couldn't get through. But sadly, we got an officer this time who didn't care to enforce any rights or look at the law. And I even showed them proof about every page 2, and I'm going to turn this in as part of my my comment. Page 2, it says very clearly that you cannot prevent any pedestrian. It's for vehicles only, for any part of the street. And I have the municipal code here, which lets you know that any part of the street includes sidewalks. It's very limited what they can do. They cannot prevent any pedestrians. And then when Scientology begged the city attorney to give them a break, it was, here it is in writing, no, there are no breaks. You cannot, if you have issues with a unruly protester, you can call LAPD and stuff like that. So I have it right here, which I want to submit. I have a complaint against, several officers came. I do have a complaint in writing for the sergeant because he's the one who led the way. But I would prefer education, Chief. I don't know if it's possible for me to get some kind of a sit down with that sergeant, with, you guys can review this stuff, the law, and so he can be educated for going forward. So there's no more excuses that he can't just say, well, I didn't know any better, or I don't know. Even though I showed him, the rules, he just says, well, like they dismiss it. Well, it's like, it's not my thing, let it go. But I want the officers trained because it's going to be a continuous problem. Scientology has yet to ever abide by any permits and with the closing of the sidewalk. So I'll let you guys decide.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker.
Lara?
Okay, I'm gonna also talk about the permits that Scientology keeps getting and what keeps happening. I've told you guys that Scientology uses these permits as a recruitment PR tactic. That's it. They're using up the city's money, they're using up the police money, they're using up the fire department's money, and then they're getting away with illegal behavior. Things like the fire lanes, sidewalks being closed, all of that. What happens is protesters, children that were in this cult are speaking out about it, and we are getting assaulted by the quote guards that Scientology has hired that are armed, okay? And then the police come once they've assaulted us or shoved us. This is how it happened almost every single time somebody goes to document. And the police come and they say, okay, we're gonna go in and see, and it all starts with this permit again. Oh, well, the sidewalks closed. Oh, well, but does that make it okay for some Scientologist security guard to shove and assault and pin somebody and step on people's feet and smush their cameras? This happens every fucking time some protester goes to Scientology buildings anywhere. Testing Center, Blue Building, every time. Why does this keep happening? Is it because we're exposing all the elderly abuse and the LAPD connections and Janet Whelan and Kirsten Peterson and Kendrick Moxon, all these people who have literally been associated with Heber Gents, the old ex-president? Where is Heber Gents? Why are Scientology still part of the Winter Wonderland Christmas parade? Why? How is it disgusting to have a fucking church, quote church, that literally thinks that Jesus, L. Ron Hubbard says that Jesus Christ is a pedophile. So you have L. Ron Hubbard, Winter Wonderland, his whole thing on the top of Winter Wonderland in the middle of Hollywood for the last, 40 years? Do you know why this happened? Have you gone back? Has anybody researched? Why is Scientology involved in this? It was a literal plan, a program made by L. Ron Hubbard to recruit people into Scientology. We're breaking that apart. So yes, we're having resistance from the city because the city is so used to being like, oh no, Scientology's fine, leave them alone. We invite the officers every fucking year to the Celebrity Center Christmas parties. They don't seem bad, they're fine. When literally this is the nowadays human child trafficking. This is what's happening. So when we're over there at the Blue Buildings getting fucking assaulted by these members who are programmed, drilled, like Serge said, drilled to act a certain way, to shove a body if they don't move, to move a body. That's a normal thing in Scientology to do. That's one of the very beginnings of auditing training. And then we go to report it to the police, and the police are fucking sitting on their side saying, well, they had the permit. No, they don't have a permit to close a sidewalk and then assault people. It goes on and on and on.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker.
Next, we have P. Miller over Zoom. P. Miller. Okay, we'll move on to the next.
Jonathan Foster?
Hello, Jonathan Foster. Start with this one again.
This guy right here. Hey, get on the ground.
So they shot for 6.25 seconds. I'll come back. I just wanted to get started with that. On public comment, during the pandemic, we were on Zoom, and I went through the entire YouTube log of videos from 2013, and I looked at every video that had a large body of people in it, that I thought that that would be the most public comment. And back then, they went every item. We heard A, B, C, D, E, and then 4A, 4B. We heard, and then we heard all the discussion. We were all here till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And what I tallied as public comment only tallied 37 minutes, was the longest meeting. You give us 45 minutes right now, but when we went item per item per item, many people didn't speak on certain items. And so when I totaled everybody, the longest meeting was only 37 minutes. And that's what we should go back to. Again, I think it's 98% excellent service and it's 2% that's gross. The increase in suspect shootings is the suspect's actions. So I don't know why you commissioners keep acting like you're stupid. We need net guns. We need body armor. We need rapid fire beanbags. See, I've came down here, I'm upset like they are, but I gave doable suggestions. I didn't just tear you down. I gave doable suggestions. How about Ford? The no flat tires, the bulletproof cars, with the no leak, no break radiators. This is why I'm the chief of police, not him. He works for me. So, Andre Jones, it was too much shooting, way too much shooting. But let's talk about Andre Jones, what I realized again. Completely dehydrated, no glyconutrients, no omega-3, no amino acids, doesn't sleep 9 to 10 hours a day, has no raw vegetables. He has no church or a religious group. He has no accountability partner. This is the things that change everything for everybody that's mentally ill, but we keep going on with this. We need 32 commissioners, so we don't have these flat tires here. We need 32 commissioners, and there was a 3-to-1 vote. And if there were 32 commissioners, a 3-to-1 vote would be justice. We would know what was real. Whoever voted 3, you are all completely inept people, completely inept.
Trans on Ha.
Good morning, Chief, and good morning, everybody. All people, like MAGA people, they know my history. They run away from me. They lie very dangerous to America. They kill themselves. They kill everybody. So the reason I choose the LAPD, I come here and I work with you, and we need to build strong U.S. government to protect America. So, and very important, So I will be here every week, like Tuesday, and make sure it's very important for all of us. And it's not about me. It's about America and around the world. I wish you can tell to all American people and say, hey, we support Trans Son Ha and good change for all of us, as America will be the best country on the world, for all human rights. So it's very important. I hope my message in here, and you can help me give to all American people and tell the people we need this guy, and we learn something to protect America. So I'm very worried if I lose this fight, and the people come here fighting with the police or whatever, because the whole system is broken and give the people a lot of trouble, So I don't blame you, but I blame the control in America fell, and that's why with the president, and make the whole country just fighting, never stop. Believe me, if you say you support me, Transcend High, it everything change good for all of us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Ackerman?
Good morning. So you're going to have a closed session to discuss the court injunction against using less lethal weapons against journalists, apparently based on the premise that it involves their civil process somehow. Secret discussions are exactly what a police oversight body should not be doing, and I don't accept the fact that because a city attorney has given it the okay that it's actually legal. It just means that prosecutors have become so compromised that they won't put things in front of a jury. As I said, just about anything involving the police involves the criminal process, which takes precedence over civil matters. It should be expected that officers will frequently be accused of criminal misconduct just because of the nature of the job, but it should also be expected that the hearings which exonerate them will be held in public. Personnel files of public employees are confidential, but the term personnel is supposed to mean things like social security numbers or marital status. It's been completely abused to cover up serious wrongdoing. Please stop wasting time. Ask the governor to have the National Guard look into possible misconduct.
Nguyen?
Last week, you all had a budget proposal that, after fixed liabilities, totaled a projected $3.7 billion. Of that budget, a huge component of it is for your Community Safety Partnership Program. This program hemorrhages funds under the guise of youth programming, youth football, and after school. CSP makes the claim that community policing programs reduce crime and make communities safer. We know the reality is that these programs increase funding for the police. They're not more youth programs or after school programs. They're a bloated budget that dictates 94.5% of its dollars go to LAPD, overtime, salaries, and pensions. CSP continues to receive funding with the goal of reducing violence, but it was right next to Nickerson Gardens, a site of CSP, that there was a triple shooting that you're going to talk about later today. Jeff talked about an increase in police shootings. A shooting that you failed to mention is that of Victor Diaz and Jesus Rojas. Diaz and Rojas were being robbed by an armed robber, and in trying to not be robbed or shot by their armed robber, LAPD showed up and shot all three men. They shot Kevin Doby as well as Victor Diaz and Jesus Rojas, two men who are literally being robbed. LAPD's goal has never been to prevent robbery or to protect people. The goal is and has always been violence. Furthermore, we've been talking about it for a few weeks now, but over a month ago, we filed a public records request about LAPD's real-time crime centers. The department responded by saying that there are no real-time crime centers within LAPD. Less than 18 days after you sent us that correspondence, a community member caught on camera an officer confirming that you have a real-time crime center, currently in Central Division, right behind your watch commander's office. California Public Records Act demands that you release records to the public, us. What are you trying to hide and lying about real-time crime centers? We know they exist, so release records about them. My understanding is that more information about real-time crime centers may further crack the delicate veneer you've all created around your myth of a sanctuary city. We know the reality of your currently and notably operational real-time crime center in Central is that you use real-time crime centers to criminalize and kill. You use them to share information with federal agencies, including DHS and ICE, and your automatic license plate readers are used not only to criminalize citizens, but also to track and flag cars of folks who are undocumented. This pipeline to deportation that you continue to build out in your budget exposes time and again the values of LAPD. Fuck all of you and release us records around real-time crime centers.
Grace?
You call this the Board of Police Commissioners, but all you do is rubber stamp LAPD's demands. Like they mentioned, last week LAPD came in here with the biggest proposed budget they've ever had, bigger than some countries' militaries, and you all nod along like you're approving a Costco receipt. Meanwhile, they have the audacity to claim they're running community programs in places like Nickerson Gardens. Let's be very clear. There is no youth programming. There's no deterrence. There's no investment. There's CSP, which is nothing but a PR facade that, like they said already, funnels 94.5% of all of the funding directly into cop overtime, salaries, pensions, and healthcare. 94%. That's not community program, that's theft. That's robbery of the poor committed in broad daylight every single fiscal year, baked into this department's DNA. CSP is nothing but a stalking horse for LAPD to occupy housing projects and launder their presence through football coaches and pretend after-school activities that don't even exist. It is police capturing the little money that should flow to black and brown youth and redirecting it right back into their own pockets. CSP is not community safety, it is community colonization. People in Nickerson Gardens have been telling the truth about CSP for over a decade, and you don't listen because you were never supposed to. You exist to ratify CSP, not to question it. And then you have the absolute sham of this agenda item about controls for accessing confidential information in sexual assault investigations. This entire review exists because LAPD command staff leaked confidential details to protect a billionaire sexual predator. Corey Palka didn't slip up. He didn't misuse information. He weaponized it deliberately to shield Les Moonves, a man with power, money, and the kind of elite connections LAPD has always been loyal to. Your own OIG Matthew essentially said the quiet part out loud. Even if stronger controls had been in place, it likely would not have stopped Palka. Even with better controls, LAPD would still protect powerful men, because it's not a problem with software, it's a problem with the culture and the foundation of this department. And don't pretend this was an isolated incident. LAPD knew for years that officers were accessing sensitive information without authorization. They didn't fix it because they didn't want to, because powerful men, whether they wear the uniform or fund the politicians who defend it, always get protected in the city. Always. And tomorrow you'll go back to pretending this department is about safety and trust and community. Meanwhile, LAPD's out here protecting billionaires, terrorizing housing projects, siphoning youth money into their own paychecks, and demanding $3.7 billion to keep doing it. And until this city stops feeding the beast you sit here enabling, we'll keep showing up and we'll keep refusing to let you sanitize what LAPD actually is. A white supremacist institution that protects the powerful, extracts from the poor, and harms survivors.
Hamed Khan.
Rasha, what are you going to do about the public records? You have the department lying and saying that there are no RTCCs. You have an on-duty officer saying that there is an RTCC right behind the watch commander. So who's telling the truth? And who's telling a lie? And since we're on the subject of the budget, and we see again a massive proposal, a massive expansion of community safety partnerships, ACCICs, CSOCs, and on and on and on. But just kind of let's take a pause and look at what exactly is CSP. So CSP is a program which started in 2011 in Nickerson Garden, Jordan Downs, and most of the Hackler projects. And initially, this was funded by big developers. Goldman Sachs gave over $750,000. Steve Ballmer, who owns the Clippers, gave over $250,000. But in essence, it's a community policing program that goes back so community policing and data-driven policing have now, as we lifted and automating banishment, the report we released in November 2021, has been this convenient marriage to create a facade. But community policing is inherently a counterinsurgency project of an occupying army. Let me just read a quick quote from the Data-Informed Community-Focused Policing handbook that LAPD released in April 2020, and I quote, that racial and ethnic minorities may perceive the police as lacking lawfulness and legitimacy, based in part on their interactions with the police or other influences, parentheses, social media, news stories, etc. This can lead to distrust of the police, which has serious consequences for law enforcement. Lack of trust equates to illegitimacy of police authority, which in turn leads to an inability for the police to function effectively. LAPD's Data-Informed Community-Focused Policing announcement, April 2020. Now let me read something from the U.S. Army Counterinsurgency Field Manual from May 2014 that General Petraeus, who was the Viceroy of Iraq at the time, had written and released. And it says, and I quote, legitimacy determines the transaction costs of political and governmental power. Low legitimacy may breed contempt on the part of the population and may require extensive prodding and incentives by the government to secure compliance of the population. High legitimacy generally invites compliance by the population and therefore requires less effort by the government to ensure compliance. An illegitimate government's only method of controlling its population is coercion, which can be resource intensive. So now let's break it down. Let's break it down to CSP. Let's break it down to predictive policing. Let's break it down to land development. And that's exactly what which we have highlighted as the algorithmic ecology. That who is functioning, who is being displaced, who's being banished, and who's benefiting. Big land developers. That's what it comes down to. And this is all about coercion. This is all about legitimacy. This is all about this garnishing this language of community policing, which basically is policing of the community as any.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Gina Viola, please.
Sir, you've already had your opportunity to speak.
Gina Viola.
Ma'am, it's not your turn.
Sorry, but I'm here to speak on behalf of the 400 victims of Oxford.
Ma'am, this is going to be your first warning. If you continue disrupting the meeting, there's other people in line to speak, so thank you. Ma'am, I've already given you a warning. Thank you.
Do you see how it works in this room? I mean, come on. This is the reason why we have to yell out, because we know you're not listening any other way at all. I don't even know what kind of dog and pony show this is. I know you spend the whole week scripting what goes on in this room. It's evidenced by the fact that whatever questions you potentially muster up, somehow the chief of police has answers for those questions. Because these things are submitted in advance. And this is why it's frustrating and folks need to holler out in order to be heard. You're talking about restoring order with less than lethals. LAPD is the greatest threat to itself as well as the community. So these less than lethals don't keep any of us safe. In a city where crime is dropping, continuing to drop, police killings are up, frightfully up. This is the highest uptick we've seen in a long time. I don't hear any of you doing anything about that. That's 39 community members stolen. And then what happens to those folks? Those families, they get harassed daily by the LAPD to keep silent. This has been happening for decades, and you all sit up here and do nothing about it. You get your political appointment to sit at this desk to enrich whatever comes next in your lives. I don't know how you sleep at night. I really, really don't. Scientology is like our own Epstein Island here. Like, what is going on with that? I mean, you hear about this. We've been hearing about this for decades. There's documentaries, all kinds of stuff. Police officers sit on some of their boards. They're there. The police are everywhere in Hollywood. Scientology is the largest landowner in Hollywood. Again, it comes back to land use in this city. You would rather protect the landowner Scientology than actually investigate what's going on there. Child abuse, elder abuse. Shame on you all. You know, you mentioned the innocent bystanders, okay? Innocent bystanders that get killed when the police car chase or jump out of their cars and run into a Trader Joe's because they're so desperate to kill somebody. The Corrado family would like a word. Really, I mean, you motherfuckers are more concerned with helicopter safety than you are these bystanders. Burlington Coat Factory, right? Valentina Oriana Peralta. Trying on dresses in a dressing room, shot and killed by police. I mean, everything should stop when stuff like this happens.
Thank you. Thank you. Your time is up. Ma'am, you've already had an opportunity to speak. And
Madam Chair, we're at 47 minutes. We have 4 speakers left. How would you like to proceed?
we'll continue to hear from a couple more speakers in the room. Next speaker, please.
Aiden?
What's up, people? Pigs. As a regular attendee of this meeting, it's shocking how similar each meeting sounds. People come up, they say, "Oh my God, the craziest shit that's ever happened to me in my life happened. This abuse of power, this violence, this crime, this deep corruption." And every fucking week, it's the same thing. This bald guy and his fucking crony walking back outside the room, and they're, "Oh yeah, someone's gonna talk to you, someone's gonna talk to you, this is gonna be so awesome," right? No one is gonna believe that shit if they pay attention, right? Like, it's silly. People come in, they say the same thing every week. The Scientology people have come in every time I've been here. They say the same shit every week. They're like, "Hey, you guys are hanging out with these Scientology fucks. They're doing a lot of bad stuff. You might want to reconsider that." And not a single one of you motherfuckers sitting up there has thought, "Hey, maybe we should do this." And you know what it makes you look like? It makes you look like abusive fucking pedophiles. If you are not standing up against the many, many valid issues the people in this room bring to you every week, you are a piece of shit who does not deserve to be on this commission. Looking at you, Django, I saw you drinking water, which, did you know we're not allowed to bring fucking water in here, Django? Do you know why that is? Because I talk every week and you don't say a fucking word. Why do you get water and I don't? And we got Jeff Scobin here. You know, you got the fucking feds calling in saying we need more bulletproof cars. I guess he sells them, so maybe he came to the right meeting. But aside from that, I haven't seen him do fucking shit up there, except ask a question to Dominic Choi when the fucking chief wasn't even here, that Rasha had actually already asked and it had already been answered. So what is the fucking point of this meeting if we come in here and every week you say, "Oh, well, you know, it's going to be really great. We're going to investigate instances of officer shootings, and we're going to try to make sure that they're following protocol." Is the protocol just to shoot anything that fucking moves, Jim? Because it seems like they're already following that protocol. So how are we going to have the cops shoot fewer people if the protocol is basically just to shoot people when they feel like it? You know, you are fighting an injunction. Like, look at the situation from like an outside perspective. You're not the chief of police. You're not on this fucking commission. The cops are asking the court if they can shoot journalists. And you're like, "Okay, the court said no. I have an idea. Let's go fight the court. We should be able to shoot the journalists whenever we want." I have a crazy fucking idea for you dipshits. Don't shoot them, and also don't shoot them with your regular guns. That eliminates the whole problem. We're talking about like, oh, we're removing less lethal options from the cops. You know, they're gonna have to take out their guns and shoot these people. Maybe they should use their fucking brains and not do either of those things. Maybe this is why no one wants to be a fucking cop, Jim. No one wants to hang out with a bunch of fucking pedophiles who just shoot anything that moves. It's embarrassing. Fuck 12, free Palestine.
Next speaker, please.
John Avalos.
Hi, everybody. Last time I was here, I got really rude with you guys and asked you, do you really think you're a community, oversight of the police, you know? And I'm sorry, I must be wrong. I might be wrong because I'm still doing research. I'm Googling, I'm asking the artificial intelligence. And it turns out in the research that you guys are not. You're just a commission, which is the police department. You're a commission in the 1920s when you started. There's nothing that I see so far that you are community-controlled commission, or a commission for the community to control the actions of the police. And control, I mean, to have an input. It turns out there's nothing that I find so far. So all of this is a big waste of time for us. We've been coming for 6 years when they were killing all the black kids. Right, and so what are we gonna do? And then Andrew talks about what is that called? The charter, the city charter. If anything, then we have to change the city charter to really get a community, controlled commission. You're a department, like I said a while back, awesome. Have your wonderful meeting with all your officers and make all your decisions. And you know, if we create a couple of oversight committees, one over in the valley and one for the city here, maybe two separate commissions, and the chief won't even have to be there dealing with us. You won't have to be there sitting with a red face from these people. They're so mean to you. You know? A conundrum. I like that word. I've been trying to think of a good metaphor. And thank you. One of the people earlier came up with a metaphor. What was it? A dog and pony show? Oh, that's kind of mean, but it's a metaphor. We'll think of a good metaphor for what's going on here, because then we'll come and share the poetry with you. Pretty bad. The horses, the dogs, there's nobody overlooking how they treat the dogs, how they hire the dog trainers. The horses, there's no oversight. No one, you do what you want. And a minute ago you said, well, the city council, they need to come over here and see what we're doing. They gave you a raise, and you're still talking about them like that. They gave police overtime during the No Kings March. And there you are saying,
Thank you. Next speaker.
Dr. Gina Gods.
Power over me. I do what I want.
Sir, you've already had an opportunity to speak. That's your first warning.
Hello, thank you for letting me speak. I'm here to speak on behalf of the 400 Oxford Gold Beverly Hills victims whose assets were stolen, who have not gone charged with anything, who I have reported to the police again and again, to Butler Street, to Santa Monica, where I'm also a victim of every kind of crime, from embezzlement to larceny to impersonation of the same people who are actually defrauding 400 people of Oxford Gold Beverly Hills, where they abused the elderly, stole their retirement accounts. Then they take the money and we put it into Webull kind of companies. And these people are the same people who are funding the police department. They're getting away with murder, and there's nothing that one can do. I've been to this building at least 10 times in the last 2 weeks to try to get help from Commercial Crimes to help me recover my assets, which were stolen. I have been unsuccessful. I'm a victim of mortgage fraud, loan fraud, bank fraud, court fraud, where people can go and file pretending they're you because they have access to online filing. Again, I go to the police, I file reports, no one follows up. No one follows up. What kind of a police department are you guys running? What kind of a authority figures are you guys? That people can steal 400 people's retirement account, pension. One committed suicide a few weeks ago because the people who stole the assets are still can get away with it and say, oh, it's Trump. That's why we don't have any criminal records. Well, they still are stealing people's assets and getting away, and police doesn't do anything about it. I'm a victim of that. I've been to the police so many times, they think I'm talking gibberish, and I am not speaking gibberish. I've never even had a moving violation in all my life. I'm a doctor of psychology. I worked in banking. Now I look at these bankers, they could do whatever they want because there's no one helping them. I go to the police, try to get help. No one has helped me. I'm very surprised that I have to keep going to the same police station, begging for them to take the evidence. And they said, no, they don't want evidence. They're just taking one report, one page, and say forgery. Well, take the evidence, do some investigation, be accountable. Help people. No one should be committing suicide because their assets were stolen by.
Okay, ma'am, your time's up. Thank you. Next speaker. This will be our final speaker.
Since I came in the room here, you've been staring at me. You think you saw a ghost, huh? Yeah, you did. So you see, good things happen to those that wait. And that little asshole at 3:30 Sunday morning happened to me behind my office. There he is, one of your favorites. And you know, it's funny, God spoke to me, or maybe it was Satan. I had a dream that morning that somebody's breaking in. So I got in my car. They thought I was fucking crazy. I drove downtown. 3:30 in the morning, I got there, and there it was. So, first thing we do is we always introduce ourselves. I don't call you fucking guys. Right over here in the ear. That's what it sounds like. It's a attention getter. Okay? So, you're paying these guys about $500 for these jobs. You gotta fucking pay better. And never do it with the ID in your pocket. So, you know, it comes down to a choice of facing 20 to 25 years in federal prison because of the things in that building, or talking. So, you know, they don't know how to talk. They want a lawyer. They say, call the police. Imagine that. So they wanted you guys to be called for him so you could pick him up and drop him off and give him his $500. And this has been going on for years. Fucking years of this, right? Then we had a little email incident where you interfered with my workspace. That's why you look. So I know. When I came here today, I says, let's see who looks at me first. You haven't taken your eyes off of me. So yeah, okay. That's where it came from. So that's the first question I have. Is anonymous email. It got me in a lot of fucking trouble. And my assistant took responsibility for it. Found him unconscious in their bedroom, overdose. So, I don't want your fucking sympathy, assholes. Just listen. Okay? Me? I'm fucking right here. And I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna do whatever it fucking takes till the day comes when we have a city council meeting and they drive that van up, that white ice van, and take all 15 of those council members in handcuffs and book their ass. I'm gonna be here. And then my job's done. Now you there, car salesman, you know they fucked you, this department. They went to Wondries Toyota and did a contract with them. They fucked you out of that contract. And they took 300 cars and they stored them in a garage. And I got all the VINs. That's why they're building an apartment complex over there, took down the garage. Have a good fucking vacation.
Okay, that concludes the public comment portion of the meeting. We're moving on to item number 3 on the agenda. Do any of the commissioners have any questions about items 3A through 3L? Commissioner Garcia?
None.
Commissioner Scobin? No. I will pull item 3D for questions, and I'll move that we approve items 3A through 3L except for 3D and take the recommended board action. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay. Can we hear for, sir, you've already been given a warning. That's your last warning, and you need to leave the meeting because you're being disruptive. We are trying to run a meeting here. So you can stand up and leave the meeting. Sir, can you please stand up and leave the meeting? You've had your opportunity to speak. And if anyone else intends to disrupt the meeting, you can leave now as well. No, sir, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think we removed him, sir. So as long as he's not disrupting the meeting. Will you all sit here? Okay, ma'am, this is not your opportunity to speak, so that's your first warning as well. Okay, can we have, and that's your last warning, and you may be asked to leave. And now you are disrupting the meeting. Ma'am, you've had your opportunity to speak, so you can leave the meeting. You've now been asked to leave the meeting because you have disrupted the meeting. Does anyone from the department have the speaker for item 3D? Thank you. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes. Yes, good morning. Police Administrator Dr. Jeffrey Phillips with the Commanding Officer of Records Identification Division.
Wonderful, thank you. And can you describe exactly what this request is?
Yes, so essentially, when a division requests changes or additions to its record retention schedule, those proposed updates are first submitted for review to record retention over at the city records clerk. Once these documents go through the chain of command, they are sent to here to the Police Commission, and upon Board of Police Commission approval of this schedule, then the approved documents are sent over back to the city records clerk, and from there they are forwarded to the CAO's office, and they will then send it over to the city council. Here before you, what you have is a change from audit division. Every division has their record retention schedule. And so my understanding is that these items that are listed were not previously on audit division's schedule, so they are adding them onto the schedule.
And this will tell us, if it's adopted by the city council, how long these types of records will need to be retained by the department. Is that correct?
That is correct, ma'am.
And prior to any destruction of any documents, is there an effort made to ensure that they are not a subject of either a Public Records Act request or, ongoing litigation?
Right, so everything that's put on there that by the division is reviewed by the city clerk's office. First of all, it's reviewed by the commanding officer of the respective division that's submitting the request. And then it does go through I want to say, pretty extensive review process, because it does go through the city clerk's office, city attorney's office, and then through the chain here within the department.
And I believe, so this is just to get the specific retention schedule set, and then to the extent there are future requests to destroy documents, that also comes through the commission and their certification that it basically qualifies for destruction. Is that the right process?
That is correct. You will see the same process as seen here today.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Those are the questions I had. Do any other commissioners have any questions? No? Okay, wonderful, thank you. With that, I move that we approve item 3D and take the recommended board action. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, motion passes, thank you. All right, we'll now move to item 4 on the agenda, regular agenda item 4A, the Inspector General's report relative to review of the department's controls over accessing and sharing confidential information in sexual assault investigations. Thank you, and please introduce yourselves.
Good morning, I'm Brian Buckner. I'm an Assistant Inspector General with the Office of the Inspector General.
And I'm Lisa Redoubt, also Assistant Inspector General at the Inspector General's Office.
And also with us today are Police Performance Auditor 4 John Gross-Didier and Police Special Investigator Christina Massison. First, I want to thank our team, Mr. Gross-Didier and Ms. Massison, for their work on this report. Before you are the results of a review that our office did in the wake of a scandal involving former LAPD Commander Corey Palka and a detective who was not in the commander's immediate chain of command, but in Hollywood area at the time, who were accused of sharing confidential and sensitive information with the subject of a criminal sexual assault investigation. To be clear, the OIG did not reinvestigate the allegations in this incident. There was an administrative investigation and a criminal investigation, but we were asked to look at whether controls existed either at the time or currently to prevent the unlawful or inappropriate sharing or disclosure of confidential or sensitive information related to criminal sexual assault investigations. As a part of our review, the OIG met with subject matter experts in the department. We looked at internal documentation, policy manuals, training, and instructional materials, as well as doing a close examination of the primary databases and systems used inside the department to manage investigative information and documentation. And those two systems are the detective case tracking system, which, as we noted in our report, at the time that we initiated the review was active and was utilized, but by the time we prepared our draft report was no longer in use by the department, though all of the legacy data from that system is accessible through a third-party vendor. And then the department's record management system, which in addition to tracking the investigative information, is also used much more broadly across the department for a number of investigative and documentation functions. Overall, our findings, we found that the controls did exist. There were adequate and appropriate controls in place at the time. And while we found that the critical controls did exist, we did make two recommendations for strengthening the controls and the standards utilized by the department. First, we recommended that the department issue a notice reemphasizing the right to know, need to know standard for accessing and sharing information. The department has already complied with that recommendation, and on November 6th, through the commanding officer of Detective Bureau, Deputy Chief Alan Hamilton, issued a notice clarifying the right to know, need to know standard. And second, we recommended establishing clear and standardized criteria for determining exactly which types of cases should be restricted and how those restrictions should be implemented, rather than leaving it up to the individual discretion of the investigating officer, which is what the sort of status quo was at the time of our review. And lastly, I thought it's important to note that, as we identified in the report, although we noted that controls existed, even if the department had strengthened controls compliant with our recommendations at the time, we don't believe that that necessarily would have prevented the unlawful disclosure of the information at the center of that incident. If someone is intent on violating policy or the law, those consequences already existed at the time, and those potential consequences were not enough to dissuade an individual from sharing that information. So that concludes our presentation. We're available for any questions.
Thank you. Wonderful. I'll start with my fellow commissioners first. Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you for the report and thank you for the recommendations. No questions. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Scobin.
Yeah, one question. I recognize that the investigation focused on, good systems in place, but someone with ill intent or a bad actor could still violate. I'm curious if the investigation, if you guys looked at situations where the LAPD might share data with academic institutions and what vulnerabilities there may be in there versus someone with ill intent looking to do something bad. This may be a situation where someone doesn't have ill intent. So I'm just curious if you looked at anything there or if it's worth looking into to ensure that, victims' privacy is protected.
Yeah, thank you for the question. As a part of this review, we did not look at, I think what are typically called professional services agreements between the department and academics and third-party institutions. I'm not sure if the department would like to respond, but we didn't, as a part of this review, though certainly if that was something the commission were interested in, we could look at the language in those professional services agreements.
I just, in preparing, I'd read that in the past, LAPD had, cooperated with academic institutions doing studies as it relates to sensitive topics like this. And so we just want to make sure that, those same systems and checks that we have in place would relate there as well.
Yeah, and I do think with any kind of cooperation, if they're getting access to department data, that they're under usually some type of contract as to like what they can do with it and the limit of access to others. But that's always a good thing to look at when we're approving future contracts for the department. I had a couple of questions and also a follow-up with the department. And I don't know if Deputy Chief Hamilton is available or if anyone from the department that can speak on the report. Oh, hi. Wonderful. Thank you. Why don't you have a seat too? You could join us and introduce yourself to the group.
Good morning. My name is Commander Jay Mastick. I'm the commanding officer of Detective Services Group.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Commander, for being here. My first question, I saw that, you know, as the Inspector General's office mentioned, the DCTS is now kind of, you know, a legacy thing, and the data is still managed by a third-party vendor. Do we have, kind of similar to the question that Commissioner Scobin asked, do we have strong controls with that relationship to make sure that the third-party vendor isn't inappropriately accessing the data or any kind of restrictions that way?
So yes, ma'am, yes to both. There is a contract that's in place, and also that the OIG, the Deputy OIG had mentioned previously, there's a way to secure those files. And he had also noted accurately that if you have a bad actor at the commander level or at the captain level, I don't know that that necessarily would have prevented it. But on the old system and on the new system, there's a way to restrict access, and there are contracts in place to ensure that that people don't mishandle that information.
Wonderful. And the third parties that are housing the data are also subject to the restrictions as well.
Exactly right.
Wonderful. Thank you. And on, you know, page 4 of the report, we're talking about the RMS system. And it was talked about in the context of restricted access cases, but I want to know whether the audit log and activity log, is that available for all case files, even if they're unrestricted, or is that only a feature of when you restrict a case, can you actually see the audit log?
Are we speaking of RMS right now?
Yes.
So in RMS, unless it's restricted, any department member could have access to it.
Correct. And so I understand that the access is available to everyone, but would we be able to run a report after the fact and say, who accessed it through the activity log or kind of like a audit log? Is that information captured even for unrestricted cases?
Yes, it is.
I think that's a very helpful piece of information that although some things won't be you know, if certain things aren't restricted, but the chief has sent out kind of a message of, hey, you only access things that you actually need for purposes of doing your job, and people are accessing it improperly, that can be a back-end way of identifying potentially people who are trying to misuse the information.
Yes, ma'am. In fact, the Inspector General had made a second recommendation to us, and that is to lay down some criteria on the nature of which types of cases should be secured in the future.
Mm-hmm.
We're working on that now. That's in progress. I will share with you that divisions like robbery, homicide, and West Bureau Sex, OWB sex crimes, they are familiar with this process, and they routinely do lock their cases down. When I inquire and drill down about cases, I get pushback about, so what do you want to know and why do you want to know it? So they're familiar with that step already.
Yep.
We're going to formalize that process later on in a notice or a special order to lay down specific criteria about what should be restricted. But after the fact, on certain cases, you can see who looked at the file. In answer to your question.
Wonderful. And obviously, we're in Los Angeles, home of Hollywood, and people have always the interest of, you know, whether there's celebrity encounters or other things. So we want to make sure that people are treating all, you know, documents and information properly and keeping things on a need-to-know basis. But I also think that there is a proper balance that we need to strike, because I could imagine if cases are too restricted, you may, you know, you're working, sexual assaults in the valley, and there's like a, you know, serial rapist out there, and people in the South Bay don't know about that, right? Like, so is that one of the things you're having to balance of how do you keep things restricted but also be able to solve the crimes?
It is. In fact, in 2023, we had a serial killer task force that was operating both in South Bureau and in Central Bureau. And it was the South Bureau investigators that detected the Central Bureau case that tied it all together, that led to that. So absolutely, I like that my investigators have the ability to see those things. And there's an opportunity to lock down things like notes and follow-ups. And so what gets shared and how it gets shared, I'm going to have to drill down to exactly how I want to restrict that, or how my boss wants to restrict that.
Thank you. And you said that that kind of assessment is underway. And I think having guidelines is helpful, but understand that certain cases can require an individualized assessment. And so want to still have some, discretion there and make sure, again, that we are sharing information amongst the people that need to know to help solve those crimes. But thank you. Those are all the questions that I have. Does anyone else have any follow-up questions? Yep. Okay, wonderful. Thank you all. Thank you for the report for the Inspector General. I thought it was very well done and thorough, and appreciated your recommendations and was happy to see the department already in the process of implementing them. And in terms of the assessment, sorry, how long do you think that'll take for you to kind of try to come up with some criteria?
I think we should have an assessment done in a few weeks, and then an implementation into policy. It has to make its way through the chain of command, but maybe a month or two.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you all so much. With that, I would approve the Inspector General's report. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you all for the great work. And now the commission will recess into closed session to discuss items 5A and 5B. Thank you. Okay, the commission has returned from closed session, and I'll ask the executive director, Mr. Sibley, to please report on the closed session items.
Thank you, Commissioner. So item 5A, at the regular meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners on November 25th, 2025, during the closed session, the board made the following findings in both cases by a 3-0 vote. So 5A1, officer-involved shooting 056-24. For tactics, tactical debrief, 1 police officer 2, and administrative disapproval, 1 police officer 2. For drawing and exhibition of a firearm, in policy, no further action, 2 police officers 2. And for lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 2 police officers 2. 5A2, which is officer-involved shooting 057-24. For tactics, tactical debrief, 2 police officers 3, 1 police officer 2, and 1 police officer 1. For drawing and exhibition of a firearm, in policy, no further action, 2 police officers 3, 1 police officer 2, and 1 police officer 1. And for lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 2 police officers 3, 1 police officer 2, and 1 police officer 1. And then for item 5B, the item was discussed, and that concludes the report out.
Thank you, Mr. Sibley. I move to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you. And happy Thanksgiving.